I'm not streaming every night on Twitch anyway, right? So
Well, I know you. I know you do streaming. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us, of posterity, and those will jump in. But we tonight, Eliza Barr and that comic awesome, are joining me to talk about comic book events. Both of them have channels. I'll put their YouTube channels into the description, so you don't have no excuse not to check them out. They're also their Twitter.
Maybe I'll start posting videos again.
Get you fire under your ass. There you go. But look, with events this time of year, you would think that's normally a summer deal. But right now, we got two big events going on. Actually, we had three.
Wait, two? You have there's 5 events going on right now.
Well,
Marvel can't keep their events
straight
at this point.
Oh, that's right, with the spider stuff. Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Yeah, Spider-Geddon, right?
Yeah. So thankfully, I think 3 or 4 events wrap up today. So I'm kind of eagerly, waiting to see how some of them are going to wrap up. I'm trying not to view any spoilers online.
Yeah, if you know how Extermination 5 ends, don't tell me, because I just got the book. It's right here in this bag.
I'm sure you probably saw my tweet about that earlier.
I haven't been on Twitter that much today, so I missed it, man.
No, well, so CBR posted something with a hint of a spoiler for Extermination, and I'm like, it's 9 a.m. I'm like, let me at least go get my books first before you even attempt to spoil this stuff.
Oh, it was spoiled for me the other night. I haven't been a buddy of mine. Me and him are big X-Men fans, but I'm X-Men in the soul, not necessarily in the wallet. I'm not going to spend my money on current X-Men books. And the whole notion of it being $4 an issue for 20 pages of story, it just isn't appealing. But there's going to be another event, and upon another event. But with the Hunt for Wolverine, all that stuff, and then you got Doomsday Clock still running late, which is holding up. That right there, when I told people, I said, yeah, I could have filmed it and put it on YouTube of me tearing up my copy of Doomsday Clock, throwing it in the trash. It was not a good comic. It was not it was the variant cover, actually. It was the
you got the lenticular cover?
The one that's with Dr. Manhattan and Superman, on the cover, not the standard cover. Because I was like, I'm going to pick this up. And I didn't hate it as much as I hated Kick-Ass 2. But I hate it enough to where this is an abomination. It shouldn't exist. If you're going to do it, you go all the way. You just don't try to class it up. But I threw that in the trash. But and it's still another 8, 9, 10 months left.
Oh yeah, they changed it from being a monthly to a bi-monthly. But I get what you're saying. There are some issues of Doomsday Clock. I think the issue where they go into the new Rorschach's backstory, I liked that one. But this past issue that came out last week, I think, really kind of solidified a real weird feeling for me, because you have the Watchmen, which was supposed to be this very all real timeline, very gritty type of storytelling. And then you have these DC heroes, which are, supposed to be grounded in a reality, but maybe not quite. The storytelling is different. The storytelling doesn't feel the same. So now you have this Watchmen storytelling with these DC characters, and it's a little off-putting. You're just this doesn't make sense. It's oh, I got peanut butter and bologna on my sandwich, and it's it just doesn't. two things, they just don't go together. It's I just don't get it.
That's a very fitting thing, because when the whole idea of Watchmen's deconstruction of the superhero thing, it's this is coming from a writer who built up Swamp Things. He's not a man, he's a plant that thinks he's a man. Miracle. Well, he did Miracle Man, which is about which is probably one of the best, if not the best thing he's done. That's a favorite of mine, Miracle Man, that Alan Moore did. But then you have Jeff Johns, who's known for he can write really wholesome stories, and he's trying to. But I think at the end of the day, he's a really sick, twisted man.
Oh yeah,
the mutilations and stuff like that. Like he came up with, I'll never forget this. There was a Wizard article many years ago when Wizard was a thing where it was like Jeff Johns recreates Kite Man. You know the villain Kite Man. He's like and his Kite Man was Jeff Johns' Kite Man, where he skins people alive and turns their skin and then makes a giant kite, and he flies around the night skies with people's skin.
Well, that's a cheerful way to start.
Yeah, I think that right there, just I understand that. Yeah, he lost his sister in that terrorist. Was it Flight 800, the one that flew up over Long Island, or not? It was not terror. The conspiracy theory is it was a terrorist attack, but it was just the apparent accident. And that's how he based Stargirl off his sister, which has always been kind of weird. I've always found it weird. And there was an issue of just JSA where they time travel and I think put Per Degaton or somebody in the place of a Atom Smasher's mother, and the plane blows up. So it's like this really weird. I don't know. There's some strange stuff with Jeff Johns, but him helming this Doomsday Clock, this Watchmen sequel, and if you're going to do it, like Wizard years ago did a thing where it was a Wonder Woman from like the Victorian era Wonder Woman, one of the Elseworld stories, battling Superwoman from an Elseworld story, and then you had Rorschach battling Dark Knight Returns Batman, and they had the vampire Batman in the background battling somebody else. The Green Lantern Superman, like that kind of thing, like all these like weird Elseworlds kind of thing. If you're gonna do it, just don't even try to be classy about it. Just be as trashy and like canon films like as possible. Like Golan and Globus were putting this stuff together. There's no shame. Just throw this stuff out there. It's like Rorschach shows up and punches Batman in the face. That kind of thing. Like be blunt about it.
Well, I think that's like part of why, this, like, especially this last issue of Doomsday Clock just doesn't work. Like throughout the whole series, they kind of tease Superman kind of getting into it, and now he finally has like entered the fray. But it's very like Superman acts like Superman, but he's put in a situation in which you would never really. You're just like, come on, Superman, like. You're interacting in, global terrorism, okay? That is just too real. Like, it's not like, some no-name Eastern European country, like Latveria or something is like trying to threaten to take over. It's like, okay,
Latveria.
Whatever. Yeah, you're kind of grounding it to where even the leader of Russia is pretty much Putin, and it's like, even though they don't call him Putin, it's just too based in reality for what the characters are meant to be.
That's not fun. That's not something I would be interested in. Like someone said, well, all you regret not being in on the ground floor. I'm like, no, I won't. I try not to have too many regrets in life. And also the money, how much money I'm saving. So many people are still reading it because like, well, I've already spent $20 on it. Why not spend more? That kind of thing. I'm like, nope. I'm not going to be part of that machine. I'm getting out of the beast, as it were. But with Doomsday Clock being I think it's going to be more disappointing. That thing ain't going to hold up. There's not going to be one of these. Oh my god! Like Final Crisis. Is Final Crisis talked about? No. Final Crisis was an absolute mess. Like it shouldn't have been. It could have been something amazing, but it wasn't. It was Grant Morrison with no restraints writing garbage. This is why I used to be like, big Grant Morrison fan, and I've kind of grown towards disliking everything he touches. It's like a death. He is trying to be Mark Miller so bad because Grant's like, they ripped me off for Matrix. Okay, so thanks, Grant, for suing them. So we got, supposedly 2 bad Matrix sequels. Though now I kind of like the Matrix sequels because they're so just like blunt and dumb. But with Grant writing Final Crisis, and he did that Batman book where they didn't when they solicited it, I didn't see this as like I was just trusting. Hey, it's Grant Morrison's it'll get good. It'll get good. And then there was that prose issue of his Batman run, which is nothing but text. It was like a text story in a comic book form at standard price. It was like $2.99 or $2.99 at the time. But come on, Final Crisis Final Crisis and Doomsday Clock have a lot more in common than Doomsday Clock and Watchmen.
Speaking of Grant Morrison, as much as I have been enjoying the new Green Lantern, it is like out there, like weird stuff. Like, and the art does fit it, but it's weird.
Man, I flipped through that and I was like, I just noped right out. Now, and it's funny that Larry's over there and he's like, Doomsday Clock's trash, Final Crisis trash. I liked them both.
Hey, variety is a spice of life. I like stuff people like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I like. It's like I unironically like Suicide Squad. It's not like same thing. Yes, silence. Yes, utter silence.
I haven't watched it yet. I can't judge it. So
wait, the movie? Oh no.
Yeah, the movie. And the thing about it is, I think it's because I've lived a hard life. Feel bad for me. No, I haven't. But I've seen literal car wrecks. I've seen people die in front of my eyes in accidents. And I remember driving a tractor.
You're desensitized to train wrecks.
I'm desensitized to horror shows, and there's something about there's such utter. How did this get made? Kind of with a thing. It's like the street. It's nowhere near as good as a Street Fighter movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme. But we can all go home. Okay, Donna Troy in the chat likes Suicide Squad as well. So yeah,
she doesn't count. She doesn't like Thor Ragnarok. That's one of my top favorite superhero movies right now.
Okay, I refuse to watch that. I'm also an anti MCU kind of guy now after Guardians of the Galaxy, really. So yeah, I've been in it. I've been anti MCU since Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm OG anti Marvel.
See, I don't mind. Like again, I look at my movies like I look at my books. Is it fun? And am I gonna I don't need to critique every little piece of it. Thor battling the Hulk. I roll my eyes at it. Are there some funny spots? And does Chris Hemsworth, make me laugh? Oh yeah, he's hilarious. That makes.
God, I hate about half the humor in that movie.
I have a very simple sense of humor.
My issue is that we got to do quips. I'm reading the old comics, supposedly these things are based off of.
That's Joss Whedon's fault. He should be.
Joss Whedon had
driven out of the world. We should drive him straight into the ocean and let a shark eat him and see if he makes funny quips. He won't, but that's what we need to do to him.
You know what happens?
Have you guys had shawarma? Have you guys had shawarma?
Okay, that happens to a writer-director when he gets bit by a shark. Same thing that happens to everything else because he wrote that. He wrote that line from X-Men, the lightning striking. What happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? He wrote that, which is because they brought him in. He's the guy that wrote the what's an F5 and everybody drops their forks. Finger of God, from Twister. It's Joss Whedon for you. This is the guy that they just handed over. Like they basically said, okay, we're going to let him guide the that I am so sick and tired of the quips. When you know somebody that's died like a very horrible death, like whether it's cancer or a murder, whatever. And it's like, say if they have a name, you don't hear that often, and somebody mentions the name. That's why the whole Martha thing, it was, oh, that's so dumb. It's like if you had to watch somebody die in a horrible manner, like that, and that person's name is not some kind of common name, and you hear it, like you're doing something really messed up at the time, like you're carving your initials into an alien's face with a spear, and then somebody mentions a name, and it's like it could snap you out. I could believe that, and nobody else understands that. It's like, oh, whatever, hell y'all, I don't need you.
Dude, I totally get that. I mean, triggering is a real thing as much as we make fun of it on Twitter. Like,
oh yeah, it's like same thing. Like it happens whether in common thing. It happens with It can happen good ways. You smell like imagine a nice meal, like a good steak cooking on the grill. That smell.
I'm imagining.
Oh, and it triggers that the mouth starts watering, your stomach. Even if you weren't hungry, your stomach, you get like, oh, I can eat that. So, and then you just imagine cutting into that nice, juicy, medium cooked steak, not medium, like about medium rare. A little bit of that pink on the inside, cut it like charred on the outside. Damn, I'm getting hungry now. I need to shut up.
Yeah.
But
if I had eaten a hamburger right when the call was starting, I'd probably be right there with you.
Oh man, God. That sounds good.
This time of year, I usually don't get that cold here in the South, but still, it's you're out there and the wind's like blowing a bit, and so you're like trying to heat up over the grill. But speaking of Marvel, my biggest issue is they went cosmic, and I know Liza Barr was like, oh, you gotta rein me in, but I dislike, if not possibly hate, the Infinity Gauntlet. I am not a fan of it. That's a DC story in the Marvel Universe. I have never liked that. I'm more of the Under Siege, where the Avengers Mansion is overrun by the Masters of Evil and they're getting their asses kicked.
You just like seeing the Butler get kicked to death. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that he hurts.
That is the only part of the story I remember.
The part, so I remember picking these. I picked those issues up after they were already out, but I mean, I was like, oh, I gotta find more. So I went to flea markets and try to get as many as I could. That's why Monica Rambeau is my Captain Marvel, and some like this whole idea of the heroes. Like you read the comic book, you understand who the heroes are and who they ain't, who isn't. And then Red Skull has Mr. Hyde crush Captain America's original shield. I didn't really realize that was his original shield at the time, but I did understand like these photos, like talking about this like photos from the past, and just rips them up, and I'm like, that's really mean. That's a really bad guy. I was like, this dumb kid. But that's more of a Marvel story than I want to kill people, wipe the people out of reality so I can appease death, my love, and like it's like oh.
Well, I think what it kind of goes back to that Doomsday Clock. You have to have certain heroes to be able to handle certain situations. Again, thinking about Captain America trying to face off with Thanos. That hands down, Thanos would squash him like a bug. Like
even without the gauntlet. That's exactly what happens in the story.
Competition there, but they have to, because they want to put them together and they want to have it. They have to make them seem somewhat equal, and it's like, no, that doesn't make sense. Now, if you had somebody like the Hulk and Thanos, or Thor and Thanos, like those are people who could probably match blow for blow what's going on. But then you talk about like Under Siege. Like Under Siege would probably work again more of a on a ground level, storyline. You wouldn't expect the Guardians of the Galaxy to show up and do anything because they're out in space.
But
it's like, so it's
do that though. Like good writing. I mean, like the thing about it is you can blend it a little bit, but with the Infinity Gauntlet, and Liza Barr, you've been reading that recently. You've been kind of having a kind of what do you say, a resurgence or a fond look back.
Dude, I've been nostalgia bombing myself.
You've been Akbaring.
Yeah, I strapped my extra copy of Infinity Gauntlet #6 to my chest, and I detonated it at least once a day.
Jim Stalin.
How did you know? Is there a video camera in here I don't know about?
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
The thing about Infinity Gauntlet, like the stuff you're talking about, like when they do put like these normal level characters, like even guys that are kind of above that, like Cyclops with his laser beams, Thanos just jobs them all.
Yeah.
And that's how it's supposed to be. It's like, but then you get the moment like Captain America. Thanos, how the hell you pronounce that name?
I say Thanos.
I say it both ways. Like I say it like every different variation depending on my mood. So he's like removed his omniscience to give them a like slight chance of winning because Mephisto was whispering in his ear, and you know how the devil is. He's very seductive. And so he's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Clearly Lady Death will be impressed by their 0.00001% chance of defeating omnipotence.
Yeah.
So he's like, great. And so Captain America's there, and he's just like giving this great speech. He knows he can't do anything. He takes a swing at Thanos. Thanos smashes his shield and stuff, but it was all just a distraction. Like at that point, it's just like the pure force of will, the courage standing up to omnipotence. Like that's the stuff I like in the Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah, sure, there's this awesome cosmic stuff that I just eat up with a spoon, you know, like, oh, the screen or the page is just like full of wavy lines and Kirby dots, and you have a giant head shooting a laser beam at a chick with a glove on her hand. Cool. Yeah. But then you get these great character moments, like back early on in the story, half of everybody's gone. So people are coming home and it's like, where is everybody?
Yeah.
Black Widow's out saving people from burning buildings because a plane crashed into it, or all that kind of stuff. And then you get that brave moment, Captain America. And that's like the defining moment of the book. He's like, it doesn't matter what you do. You can't win. And Thanos is like, watch me. And then Silver Surfer comes in and it's like, is it going to be over? Of course it's not over. But it could have been. And at the end of the story, it's all down to the like cosmic level heroes. You got Doctor Strange, the Silver Surfer, Adam Warlock, the cosmic entities themselves. Thor hangs out with them. Drax, the Hulk. All the normal heroes are just, they're gone.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem in the Marvel movies that you have taken. You got no Silver Surfer, no Adam Warlock.
Oh God, don't get
no
me started
Silver Surfer yet. You know, I'm sure, I'm sure the Phase 5 is going to be coming in hot with Fantastic Four again.
Well, I'm thinking they might even do that. They might say like the reality gem resets everything, and so you have the Fantastic Four and X-Men, and it's like everything's happy and united underneath the Marvel banner.
Mark my words, they will, with the end of Avengers, it will somehow reset the continuity just enough to where like all the existing heroes are either written out of history completely, like they're not going to die, but they'll be like either put into another dimension, or this will be some sort of offshoot that like has nothing to do with previous movies. So like the new Spider-Man will effectively be like the first Spider-Man, where it won't be an origin, but it's not going to be anything extra. There won't be much reference to the first movie. You know, same with Black Panther.
Yeah, I could see that happen. And I have a feeling this is what will happen eventually. But I'm not going to be around. Because all I wanted in the past was just solid. I want a good movie. A standalone movie. But that doesn't happen anymore. It's like it's got to feed into something else. It's like it's never over. It's the, you know, like, where you used to be able to read, I have a B plot, but it's still a solid comic book, like that idea. And like these events they would have an ending. Like I will say, I did really like the Infinity Gauntlet's ending, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the bits where calling back to the Death of Captain Marvel comic. I enjoyed that graphic novel. That was enjoyable, but the overall not so much. But you know, the whole getting down to that nitty gritty, you know, that this kind of cosmic but somewhat personal stuff goes back to the whole event stuff kicked off with Secret Wars over at Marvel. You know, where you get the Spider-Man and some of the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and all these other characters, and they're thrown in, you know, battling because Beyonder wants to see who will win, and that's, you know, you get the black symbiote suit, and that had
Secret Wars was to me that harkens back to. I mean, it's such a great idea, but it was an idea because toy companies wanted to push products. And I think that's why we're missing so many good ideas in comics nowadays. There's no toys to go along with them that companies need to be like, hey, you know, Wolverine needs a new suit, so make a comic line where he gets a new suit or something that looks like a chef. You know, it's like there's nothing there, so you just got people doing whatever. They're kind of just wrangling in, you know, whatever free thought they want, instead of like, oh man, you know what's gonna sell? This is gonna sell. Like, this is actually what people want. Let's actually give the people what they want.
Well, even like when they're cleaning up, like Crisis on Infinite Earths is somewhat notorious for the fact that we have all these other characters running around. We want to just simplify and streamline everything. So we're gonna clean house, and they did it in such a manner like I'll never forget reading that for the first time. It's been many years. I already knew. I was reading the DC comics at the time, but not knowing all the kind of like how these people ended up in these situations, and watching the Flash run to death, like the multiple panel sequences. I mean, it's so dense. Crisis on Infinite. That's like really like 30 issues worth and like 12, like 30, 40 issues compacted into 12, not counting little comic strips at the bottom, but seeing how everything got to be where it is. And then, you know, this spun out of that, you know, John Byrne's Man of Steel, Frank Miller, Year One, the George Perez Wonder Woman. So you got your Trinity right there. And it was just beautiful, beautifully done. And I don't, you know, I will never get that kind of thing again because it's just too dense. Nobody could actually read that. It'd be like reading like Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, you know.
Oh, yeah. You try and go back and like read it blows my mind. Like even, you know, from the 80s and 90s, they crammed so much into those books. I mean, you know, so much into the panels, and of course, you know, printing technology, it's like you couldn't get real detailed, but they got detailed, and there was so much dialogue to where, you know, you're having like, you know, dense conversations between people to where you read a comic and you're like, man, I got a lot out of this. Whereas now it's always, it's like Marvel movies. It's always just a preview for the next movie. You know, you get that last page that may just tease you a little bit, just enough to make you want to come back and see what the next issue is about.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. I mean, with you guys, okay, what was your first, like, for me, the first real event I remember just like being really excited for was Age of Apocalypse. And what was y'all's first, you know, like that? Oh my God, that's something I loved. First events go.
Oh man, go ahead, man.
So I was gonna say, like, see, because I was out of comics in probably the 2000s to like maybe like mid to late 2000s. So I came in like back in like right around Civil War.
Oh geez.
You know, yeah. So every event I've really caught since then has been like, oh man, why am I even reading this?
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. You know, it's like I've you know, but you know, I've since gone back and, you know, I read, you know, the original Secret Wars, which again, that to me was one of my favorites, just because it's such a ploy again just to get characters, but they do it so well. You know, they actually, the way they bring everyone together and they do level the playing field with like characters of varying levels. So again, Secret Wars for me was, you know, kind of key.
Okay.
For me, I knew what like when I was a kid. I was a kid in the 80s. I knew what Secret Wars was, but I never read it because it was like 1987. You buy stuff off of a spinner rack. I didn't even know what a comic book store was. Like there were these things called newsstands back then that you bought comic books from.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was definitely that one issue of Infinity Gauntlet I picked up, number 6. I still have it. It's in spectacularly good shape to be like 30 years old now.
You treasured that thing.
Dude, I thought the staples had come off from the cover. In my mind, that's what the book looked like. And I dug it out, and no, it's like very fine or better. There's like very little damage to it. There's like some little bends and stuff. Anyway, I digress. So anyway, that was probably like the first real event, but you know, right after that was Maximum Carnage, which I had a lot of fun reading.
Very good.
It's one of those things where they threw everything at the wall and it actually stuck.
It did.
It was like multiple books, and that's back when they would like the events were really only about 2 or 3 months long, but it ran through like 3 or 4 different books.
Yes.
So it was like, and where it's like, oh my God, you got to pick up that, or you miss out. And that's the same thing with Age of Apocalypse. It was like 5-month event. There was
God, I hate Age of Apocalypse.
You hate it?
I hate it so much because I went to the center. I went to buy an X-Men comic book, and all I found was those. I like hadn't bought a comic book in like 3 months or something.
And whose fault is that? You can't blame that.
I had no money. I was 12. What do you want from me?
Get a newspaper delivery route. You mow some lawns. Steal money.
So I had no idea what was going on, and I'm just kind of like, okay, this makes no sense. And then I bought a Spider-Man book instead.
Age of Apocalypse. I'd read sporadically up to that point, and then Age of Apocalypse comes out, and I'm reading it, and because it was Weapon X, Astonishing X-Men, and Astonishing X-Men and Weapon X are the two I was getting at the time, and there was a comic book store that was about an hour away. And after dentist, I went to the dentist's office, went to the comic book store, and because half my face was numb, and I chewed up part of my tongue because I had to eat lunch after the dentist's office because he did the whole drill my teeth, and so my tongue is all. I'm feeling bad, so we go to the comic book store, like bribing me, and so I end up picking up more Age of Apocalypse stuff, and it's the cover of issue 3, I'm not mistaken, where Wolverine is falling through the atmosphere and he's burning up. I was like, I gotta buy that because it's like freaky. It's really that kind of stuff. This is the era, that kind of I had to and yes, I didn't have the complete Age of Apocalypse at that time. I eventually got the gold covered trade paperbacks they put out, and my mom didn't really care for the back of the covers of the trade paperbacks because it says America is dead. And, America's been walled off by the rest of the world. There's sentinels patrolling and all that kind of stuff. There's a nuclear strike on the way because America needs to be wiped off the face of the earth. That kind of stuff I love. But this is I think that right there is something like Maximum Carnage, Age of Apocalypse, where they would do it just a few short months, not 8 to 10 to 12 months. Like they packed it through a couple of books.
Well, I think that's kind of the way old CB is kind of running things instead of the Axel Alonso where you have one event per year, and then it kind of goes, it goes from there, and you're just like, okay, you have tie-ins and tie-ins and tie-ins. You kind of have these series events. You have the Spider-Geddons, you have the Return of Wolverine, you have the Venomverse and stuff like that with, maybe might not have as far reach or as far impact, but what happens within those pages are just as important as what happens in your Infinity War, Infinity Gauntlet, and so forth.
Yeah, that's what's missing. I think that right there, actually having an impact. But there's so many of these events that happen. Like there are so few that seem to, especially the bigger ones. I can't remember the name of the one. It's the one where Red Skull's daughter takes over or something. There's some kind of magic force or some kind of Asgardian evil devils. Or I don't know.
Fear itself.
Yeah, that one. That was I just remember it was Red Skull's daughter. I just remember that just being offended by it for some reason.
Yeah, she gets so Odin's. What was the god that showed up? Was that his dad or his brother, the serpent? I don't remember. Anyway, he shows up and he gives out magic hammers, and so you have to be an actual evil person to get one, and she gets one of them.
So dumb. That's the thing. There's some of these events are Secret Invasion is the one that broke me.
Oh, screw Secret Invasion.
That right there, I remember because it's after Civil War, and I was not a fan of Civil War. I read it kind of begrudgingly because it's you don't want to miss out, do you, Larry? You got to read it. If you don't, you'll be missing out. And I read Secret Invasion, and I got 2-3 issues in, and I just dropped it. I said, I can't do this no more. I just can't. I think I still have some of those. I was able to pick up the sketch covers, the blank sketch covers, for just a few bucks. I got 2 or 3 of them for Secret Invasion because nobody cared, and nobody. This is whatever. It's Secret Invasion.
The only thing I like about Secret Invasion is that it ended and it started the whole Dark Avengers stuff because I actually really enjoyed that set of stories. Just seeing the a bunch of villains wearing Avengers identities going around trying to do hero stuff because otherwise Norman Osborn's going to kill them. Like I enjoyed that.
Bullseye is Hawkeye.
As Hawkeye, Moonstone is Miss Marvel, Dakin is Wolverine.
Yeah,
Osborn's the Iron Patriot.
Yep, I love that so much. I know it's terrible, but I love it so much at the same time.
It was honest with what it was. It was trashy. It was trashy, but it was honest. It didn't try to like class it up or anything, get too real world or anything. It just like the whole initiative thing after Civil War, where they had a Stabby Jones in his amazing knife suit. You know, that kind of that kind of stupid stuff. It was like there was no shame. It was just they just did it.
I like that stuff too.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if you classify it as a great event, but with I know I've heard some people talk trash about the 52 weekly series, which I consider that an event. That was a year-long event, but to me that was like that you had to read every issue because every issue counted, and I think some people have kind of soured on it a bit because of with Mark Waid being involved and everything. So I was like, oh, whatever. It's a great book. Damn it! Like they actually redeemed a lot of the stuff. They did it without the Trinity. They made the book work without the Trinity, and they built up so many of these characters. But that was like the first time one of these events that I remember really like when it's like, whoa, introducing Batwoman, and she's the first lesbian superhero, that kind of stuff. And it's like, let me read the book first before you go ahead and reveal who's going to be in it, like that kind of stuff.
I think, Larry, we were talking about that on Twitter earlier, where it's like these companies can't resist spoiling what's going to happen in their ads and their solicitations, because they just want to hype it up so much. But then it's like, what happened to actually reading something? Like, how awesome would it have been to be reading like Astonishing X-Men now, and then all of a sudden Wolverine just be back, and you're like, what the hell just happened? Like, oh my God, Wolverine's back. Instead of like, hey, in 6 months we're gonna start an event. And then it's going to be called The Return of Wolverine. It's like, yeah, okay, we get it.
Exactly. Like back in the day, they'd actually have important stuff happen in random issues, not like the anniversary issue or issue 1 or an event. Like imagine you reading, I don't know, Uncanny X-Men number 4 or something, whatever, this new series book, and then halfway through the book, you see like these like Yakuza or cyborg ninjas or something getting cut up. And then you see cigar smoke, and it's Wolverine in the brown and yellow, the brown costume, my favorite of the costumes.
Yeah.
And he's just there. It's like, you just made the wrong move, bub. And like, no pre, like hype for it. And like, people go, oh, I got to get that book. I got to get that issue. You go out and actually pick it up. Not this, well, I picked the book up. I've already been told what's going to happen in it.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing is, so like, was it Wolverine coming back has been teased since Marvel Legacy, like 2 years ago when he showed up, which that screws the whole time. Like I think I like put it on Twitter one day of trying to map out Wolverine's return like in the current Marvel timeline, because through the like second to last page and the last page of the Marvel Legacy book, there's like a 5 or 6 year gap, because it showed it shows Jean at the Wolverine statue. So it shows Jean at the Wolverine statue, and then like the next panel is like him in the desert getting the Space Stone. And then even through like little hints here and there, he's popped up in other comics with the Space Stone. But now we're getting this whole series of him being like an evil clone or evilly resurrected or something, where it's like, oh, I got new murder heat claws, and it's like, it doesn't make any sense.
I'm so glad
you
I'm
were
not reading
originally
this.
even hyping this up for.
It's pointless. It's pointless to read this stuff. If they'd actually just been like, okay, we're doing, or you know what, even if he doesn't show up in like a X-Men issue, just like boom, Wolverine number 1, he's back. Wolverine is back. Not this. Well, it's the lead up to this. It's like the what they're leading up to the new X-Men books, like I guess it matters, but at this point, who knows? It's like one of those things, like like I said, the last issue came out, you hadn't read it yet, and I haven't read it either. I don't know any spoilers. I won't spoil even if I did. But these kind of things, like my best example, I remember picking my books up from the comic book store. I used to spend minimum $50 a week on comics, a minimum. I was just a dummy. Bad comics, some good, but a lot of bad, some back issues. It was just a minimum $50. I think the most I spent at one time was like $250 at the store, and that's just on like standard issues, like a couple back issue stuff, but not back issues, trade paperbacks. And I used to. The store screwed me over. I picked up, God help me. Yes, I still like the series, even though it's Gerard Way. I prepaid the $100 for the limited edition slipcase hardcover, oversized slipcase hardcover of Umbrella Academy. That was limited, like 1,500 copies. The store said, "Oh, it didn't. I already prepaid, so I'd taken care of that." The guy ran the store. So, "Oh, it didn't come in." I said, "What do you mean it didn't come in? Like, could it be coming in later?" He says, "No, it didn't come in, and because if it didn't come in, we're not going to get another copy of it. We'll just put the money on your for credit." And I'm like, I'm bummed out because I'm like, I did everything I was supposed to do. It's like I followed the rules. I prepaid for it. I pre-ordered it. It was confirmed, all that stuff. Well, Diamond shorted us, and I'm like screw Diamond, all this and that. So I worked security at the time. So the guy's like, "Hey, I got to go in the back, use the restroom, do some stuff real quick. Just hold down the fort. Don't let nobody just walk in here and steal something." All right, fine. I'm bummed out. So I'll go turn the radio on. It was a radio record player. And on top of the radio record player was a stack of stuff. And one of it was in a big brown bag. Big, like one of the grocery bags. I'm like, what the hell is that? So I look in, and it's the Umbrella Academy hardcover. And I'm like, he comes back out, using bathroom and stuff. I was like, "Hey, so you sure it never came in? I was the only one to order a copy or something?" "Yeah, you don't want to order a copy and it didn't come in. I'm sorry." I could have nailed him to the wall. Like, then what the F is it? What the F is this? Because I should have done that.
Man.
But but stuff like that. It's like, these but yeah, spending a lot of money on comics is just dumb. Was dumb for me. But I remember picking up Infinite Crisis. And that first issue, you see the ruined JLA, the JLA HQ on the moon, the Trinity. They're grumbling, this, that, whatever. And by the end of the series, they're back together. But the end of the issue, you see Superman, Golden Age Superman, and then Superboy Prime, and like, we're gonna go save the world and all that. That right there, I was like, hell yeah! I was like, I felt like Flash Gordon. The end of Flash Gordon is like, he jumps up in the air. Yeah! I felt great because I was like, that was one of those things. I loved seeing that, and it was not spoiled for me ahead of time. Now that would have been like Superboy Prime and Golden Age Superman return in the first issue of whatever BS, this, that, whatever. Like, this person dies, and Heroes in Crisis or something like that.
Dude, it'd be so much worse. There'd be like a cheesecake cover of Superboy Prime, and it would get recalled before it was actually at the printer, and then they would accidentally,
drawing a Flash symbol.
And then somewhere in the book, there's like nudity from behind of Superboy Prime's butt or something, and now the whole issue's being shredded. And good luck finding one ever.
It's funny. I try to, whatever. Screw it. It is the Elseworlds 80-page giant that they did many years ago. The one with Superboy, the Super Son, Superman, the son of Superman and the son of Batman. And this book was recalled because Paul Levitz, who was a publisher at the time, said, "No, we can't do this. This is offensive." The comic had a story in it called Loretta Lerner, Super Baby's Babysitter, and the comic. Now, tell me if this sounds familiar. This girl is babysitting a young Kal-El, a little baby Clark, and he crawled like they put a rock on top of his crib, put a rock on top of it. He lifts up the crib with a rock on top, crawls around, puts his finger in a light socket, eventually crawls into a microwave, and the microwave gets turned on, and she's freaking out. And
so it's pretty much the beginning of Roger Rabbit,
or Jack's Attack. It's basically the same thing. The animated short for Incredibles.
So where's the problem? Where's the problem here?
Well, because that's offensive because children in microwaves isn't funny. Or isn't like entertaining. But then Paul Levitz now works for Planned Parenthood, which I find hilarious.
What is it? It's like, what is that? Is a kid gonna read this and see a baby crawling in a microwave and going like, "Oh, is that where the party is? It's in the microwave." Like,
exactly.
Hey, let me crawl in the microwave.
Like it's gonna be the best rave ever. It's like it's the Darwin Award stuff. It's the same mentality as why they replaced Human Torch with Herbie on the Fantastic Four cartoon in the 70s because they were worried about kids setting themselves on fire, going flame on. At that point, we like if that's in the gene pool, we needed to wipe it out. We don't need that in the gene pool.
We're all getting banned now.
Yeah,
I'm merciless. But these events, like these big deals, like this Heroes in Crisis, which it just proves why I dislike Tom King. I am not a fan of the guy. This whole whose market is this for?
I don't like I don't like Tom King's Batman, even though I am currently sub to it and I read it because
part of the problem.
I'm part of the problem. But I honestly I like Heroes in Crisis just because.
All right, well, folks, I'm going to end it here now.
I gotta
Speaking of controversy,
I like it because I don't know what's going on, but it's not trying to be like pretentiously like I don't know what's going on. It's like, okay, something has happened. Okay, all these heroes are dead. Who done it? Like, you're trying. Was it Booster? Was it Harley? Is it somebody else? Was there? What's going on, and you're getting little glimpses of them, and yeah, you get some, your MTV, talking head, commentary of heroes, some notable, most are not, I think, but it's just, you kind of are getting this like. It's more of like a whodunit to me, not a superhero book. It just feels like we're all in it to try and figure out who's the murderer,
So basically, as Comic Rust in the chat puts it, Identity Crisis 2, Murder Time.
Yes, exactly.
I hated Identity Crisis. I hate that book so much. I remember reading the because they were putting out the reprints, the second and third printings, because it's a hot book. And I threw it across the room. I've only done that to 2 books: Identity Crisis and then Kick-Ass 2 when they did the gang rape part. How do we get back against Kick-Ass? Oh, we'll go gang rape his girlfriend because that's what villains do. And like, screw this, but I didn't say screw this. But yeah, just throwing it around. But yeah, when they the whole retcon of Sue Dibney being raped by Dr. Light, and then and instead of actually killing villains and solving a problem, like doing the whole is murder right or wrong? I'd like to see Batman just go back sporting the purple gloves and the 45s and start gunning. Yeah. Screw you, Joker! Boom.
Issue 2.
We need to get off of this topic before I get started about how Batman is morally reprehensible, but.
Allowing his Batman, as much as I can enjoy a Batman story, at
some point he just needs to put a bullet in the Joker's head. He would save tens of thousands of lives, and people's
anarchy is right. Anarchy in the Batman Arkham Origins game, where he's talking about how Batman, if he'd actually do something, like he'd actually be saving the world instead of just. He's like, you're just beating people up to solve your own mental stuff, and he's like, he's not wrong. He's exactly right, and like that right there, that's why the Joker originally died in the comics, but he was so they said, oh, we got to bring him back. We got within the issue, the original ending to he pulls out a knife to knife fight Batman, and then Batman pulls some little Steven Seagal move. Throws him against the wall, and Joker stabs himself in the chest with his own knife, and then and dies over a series of 3 panels. This is a golden age. Deaths all the time. Batman was breaking necks. Batman poured silver bullets in the golden age, and he poured silver bullets because apparently they were doing the whole silver killing vampires thing back then. And he goes and opens up coffins of vampires when they're sleeping during the daytime and shoots them while they're in their coffins.
Why not?
Well, the first issue with Hugo Strange, Hugo Strange is taking homeless people and injecting them with a serum that turns them into 10-foot tall giant monster men, and they inject Batman with the serum, but he's able to create an anti-serum that prevents him from turning into a monster man. I was like, that's the plot for Arkham Asylum.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
this sounds really familiar.
And one of the monster men is trying to attack Batman. So Batman's in his bat gyrocopter, throws out a lasso, a noose, and hangs one of the monster men from his gyrocopter as it flies on. So he's hanging a monster who is a poor homeless person, probably mental issues, that's been turned into a monster. He's like, "Now you're bad
dead.
right now. I kill you. You're dead." Yeah, this is like a Golden Age Batman comics. If you ever have a chance to read them, they are glorious. Like they're not as crazy as the Golden Age Superman stuff or the Golden Age Wonder Woman sometimes, because you get each one. Golden Age Superman very political. Like it's like he goes down, he takes mine owners, goes into the ground. Like he's like, "Oh, I'm just a miner, just like you." Gets underground, breaks down the support beams, traps the miners underground, the mine the owners, because they're not giving their mine workers proper benefits and pay, and ease up. He's like, I'll let you stay down here until you either you die or you promise to give your workers better benefits and pay and all that stuff. And they're like, okay, fine. And then another one where Superman drugs a college football player, to take his place, impersonate him, to find out against a gambling racket that's been like betting on sports games. And in doing so, he's been drugging the guy. So because Superman, he's playing football all by himself. He's like scoring all the touchdowns. So the enemy team hates the opposing team hates him. His own team hates him. So when the guy comes out of the drug stupor after Superman's caught the racketeering guys, he comes out and tells the guy, "Hey, you can go play football." Not only does the opposing team kick his ass, his own team kicks his ass. Superman set this dude up, drugged him, set him up, and the guy gets his ass kicked for no reason. He was just happened to be in the wrong place, the wrong time. And Superman just happened to choose him to impersonate. Superman's a dick.
Old school Superman's like new Batman, just an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. People talk about how bad the Frank Miller Batman is. Like he's like, oh, whatever. He has nothing on the Golden Age Batman as far as murder and destruction and all that. But it's with these, we have, Age of Apocalypse, we have, Crisis, we have Civil War, and with these newer books, I don't see I want to see like something that even makes me want to go, I got to read that. But there hasn't been one. There hasn't. Heroes in Crisis, it seems like Identity Crisis, and I have zero interest in that. This new, the X-Men stuff, Extermination, just reminds me of Days of Future Present, because with Ahab.
Yeah, it pretty much is, but I understand it serves a purpose of cleaning up its own mess. Marvel dug a hole with the whole, past, future, whatever, young X-Men coming back, and they're like, okay, now we have to clean it up. How do we do it?
They could have just said that they're from an alternate timeline. They're from an alternate Earth. But no, they had to go ahead and ruin that by, there's no such, no, this is explicitly from the past. Like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Just say their world is dying, and then, they were able to breach through or something. I don't know. But no, they didn't do that.
It's X-Men time travel. It doesn't make any sense anyway.
Yeah. It
makes more sense coming from the future to the past than coming from the past to the present. That's how I've always looked at it that way. It's like you can come from a future that doesn't exist no more, like a Rachel Summers, Nathan Dayspring Summers, that stuff. Or even Nate Gray. You come from an alternate timeline. You can easily come from that. But this coming from the past, it's like I've never liked that. I don't like that kind of time travel.
No, my biggest gripe with X-Men right now, it kind of goes to bringing back. Okay, so you've had these major events to kill, pretty much the main players. Professor X is dead, Wolverine's dead, Jean Grey's dead, Cyclops is dead, and now you're trying to bring them. Your sales are down in that department. Inhumans bombed. So now you're like, well, we got to go back to X-Men. Well, no one knows any of the main X-Men that we have now. Okay, you have Kitty Pryde and Colossus, and they're getting married. You know, sure they are. but there's no like, you don't have the key people that like all of, you know, the majority of your readers grew up reading. You know, I remember watching X-Men the cartoon every Saturday morning. Like, that was like the thing to watch. You know, so it's like those were the characters I grew up with. Well, the problem is the characters that they are now are so completely different. Like, you know, I made the comment on Twitter earlier about Cyclops. Like, he has gone so far down the rabbit hole that where he was as like, yeah, the kind of stuck up D-bag, but ultimately like the headstrong leader you need, like, of the X-Men, to like raging zealot, you know, controller of like the Phoenix Force, you know, villain, and dead. An off-screen death that they had to revisit in an event comic, you know, 6 months later, pretty much. You know, it's like now it's like, okay, what are you gonna do with him now? He's not a likable character anymore. Like, you can't market him as a likable character because he's not.
Reset. Let's reboot this series.
Hey, let's go back to 1992 and let's bring back, you know, all of the X-Men the way they
were. Can we have Jim Lee draw it?
But they've done that though. That's the problem. They've done that twice. See, what happened is Claremont did it. Is like, what if Claremont never? Because it was like Claremont's like, well, it's either gonna be me or Jim Lee, and it was like they chose Jim Lee, and then, of course Jim Lee left, you know, a few issues later, and then they burned their bridges with Claremont. So that's how, you know, Lobdell and the Caesar and all these other guys, you know, they're writing to Claremont, and it's like, let's end Claremont's run for Jim Lee, the guy who's going to bail, not even last another year with us, you know, at that point. But with, you know, like there was also that X-Men 92.
Yeah.
By Chris Sims. I've met Chris Sims briefly, very briefly. I don't like his online personality, and I don't like him in person. So it's one of those things. Like, people say, "Oh, it's a good book." Screw that. I don't like the dude. It's like I don't like you. He doesn't like you either. it feels like that. It's like this. You know, this is a nostalgic kind of like look back. It's like, you don't have to go all the way back to the night. Just write the characters how they're supposed to be written. Jubilee should not be a vampire. This idea of like, oh, her powers are dumb. I'm like, every 4th of July, they do those things in the fire department. Don't mess with fireworks because they'll blow your hand off, kid. And then like, Jubilee is the walking equivalent of that. You know, she's like a walking Roman. She's like a walking down here in the South. We have south of the border.
She was one of my favorite characters on the cartoon.
Like, I loved her.
And that's the thing. It's like her powers were like stupid, but it's like she was an integral part of the team, even though she shot fireworks out of her hands.
But then my idea is like that's the limit of the characters as far as writing as well, because, you know, in a cartoon you only have so much time to work with and everything. But with fireworks, you got everything from sparklers to Roman candles to the big explosive stuff. Now imagine one of those she's like shooting off the equivalent of Roman candle in your face.
Oh, you mean she's shooting fireballs everywhere? Yeah,
exactly. That how great would that? And also like a basically like walking flashbang, like from any Rainbow Six kind of game or whatever. And like, imagine like you just send Jubilee like knock on the door, kind of like a Leon a Professional. Like she's like, it's dark out here in the alley, and somebody opens up the crack in the door. She puts her hand, and then like fills the room full of like flashbang and light, and like, you know, knocks the door down, like takes like some bolt cutters, and just like cuts the door. And like robbing drug dealers, but
yeah, I essentially think that like Marvel is doing its like, you know, best half-hearted attempt to, you know, beg its way back into the good graces of every like X-Men fan who's like, you know, I'm sorry, you know, Fox owned the rights to X-Men, and we couldn't make the movie, so we were going to Inhumans, but, you know, that was, you know, now we're back. You know, we got the rights to make the movies, and now we want to make the comics again. So please read us.
I liked it. I will take this. I will say I did enjoy There's like one Inhumans book, like actually two. The Paul Jenkins Jay Lee book, that's really good. I enjoyed that. What I enjoyed more was the Jose Ladron and Carlos Pacheco Inhumans, which is a 4-issue miniseries that they didn't even bother collecting in its own 4-issue like collection. It's in a Fantastic Four collection. It's like the ancillary, like, whatever, and it's a Inhumans 4-part. The art is incredible. It's so detailed. Jose Ladron, he did the Elephant Man book, the Hip Flask book, which is so detailed, just gorgeous artwork, and it's like too good for Inhumans book, but it's really good. It's like when people say they want kind of a space opera for Inhumans and like kind of this without focus, because they always focus on it's like Game of Thrones. Don't say that. That's not a good combination for Inhumans.
Well, I think the problem with Inhumans is you had two different Inhumans going on. You had kind of the royalty of like, okay, you have Black Bolt, Medusa, and stuff like that. But then you just tried to make mutants, but you couldn't say mutants anymore. So you had to say Inhumans, and you had to come up with a different origin story. Like, instead of you were born with the X gene and, and your powers could just manifest at any time. Oh, you were born with a Kree gene and you went through Teragenesis and then you got powers that way. It's like, it's you're flipping a quarter at that point and be like, heads, you're a mutant. Tails, you're an Inhuman. It's like that to me had zero interest. Like, yeah, if you want to like have like an elite few of like Kree warriors that like kind of intermingled with humans and this is like their descendants and their legacy, yeah, that seems like a pretty cool concept. But it's like, if you're just making a different type of mutant because you're mad that you don't have the studio rights to the X-Men, then that's just like that's the ultimate cash grab right there, and it failed.
Well, it failed, and now they have Fox. They don't have to worry about it. Like Inhumans. What Inhumans? We don't need no Inhumans. We don't need no stinky Inhumans. It's just the way it is now. They got mutants wrapped up, so they don't have to worry about it no more. And I'm disappointed that there aren't, like I said, more event books like Infinite Crisis, something I can get behind and be like. Watching Superman battle Superboy Prime through a red sun. That's just crazy. It's like this is the kind of stuff I love. I love seeing like this. It's cosmic, but not too cosmic, and then landing on Mogo, the planet Green Lantern. It's great stuff. But we don't now. It's just
now it's like an event to have. It's for the sake of events. It's like, okay, what can we do now? And like this year alone, so you had Infinity Countdown, which was just a 6-issue build-up to Infinity War, which has just been a piss-poor reason to spin off a bunch of like what-ifs, like Secret War, the last Secret Wars. It's just every event is just a lead up to the next event. The very end of Civil War II is just Cap sitting there talking to Tony's corpse about now I'm gonna now my Hydra plans are gonna be unfurled kind of thing. It's like
Hell Hydra.
Yeah, it's like every event is just a lead up to the next. It's like, why can't we have contained, here's the start, here's the end. That was a good set of books.
Yeah. Even with even Infinite Crisis, even though it ended with the whole, where they're going their separate ways, the Trinity going their separate ways, it was a solid ending. Eventually, we knew it led into the 1 year later stuff in 52, but it still had like it's like a solid
closure.
Ending.
You got
closure. Yeah, exactly. But I think that's missing from a lot of these. Part of me, I think it's editorial driven now, because like all these things were always editorially driven. But you have to think that the quality of editors has gone down because they've just gotten so cheap. These are not people that love comics. They're only there to pad their resumes,
Mm-hmm.
And
They want to
it's
work at a
also
magazine or a big newspaper or some
or
bigger
like a
publication.
BuzzFeed or something or Huffington Post. Like they want to move on to. It's like, well, I worked for 5 years as an editor at Marvel, and I'd be like looking at their sales, looking at the, yeah, we'll keep you considered. We'll keep you on file.
Well, that
And then,
you look at the credits for a book, right? And it's like, okay, you have like 2 assistant editors, an editor, an executive editor, and then you finally get editor in chief, and it's like,
you get group editor. Remember, you get group editors
yeah.
too.
And it's like, how many people are reading this book, and then you still find a spelling error, and you're like, how did 5 people comb through this book and not see this? Or you like there was something I was reading the other day, and the paneling made no sense, and I'm like, if you had like this panel like just a little bit higher and the flow of it went this way, this page would have made it immense more, like 10 times more sense. And I'm like, how did no one catch this? How did no one sit here and be like, you know what? This could use just a little bit more love. You know what? A couple of months ago, I did a video. I think it was when they were doing the Doctor Strange Damnation, and there was a leading up to that. There was a Scarlet Spider issue where him and Kane were. I think they were helping out football player. Maybe it was like right after the events or something like that. Oh no, it was right after the events of Secret Empire, and they were rebuilding Vegas. But like, Kane gets a phone call, and he just like reaches into his pocket and like is like hello, blah blah. It's like there's no like ringing indicator or anything that like his phone even rang. He just like picked up his phone and started like talking, and it's like like little things.
Don't you do that?
Adding sound effects in greatly helps a scene make sense, because I had to like sit there like a couple times, and I was like, I kind of went back and forth. I'm like, oh, he picked up his phone. Like, I get it now, and it makes sense, but I shouldn't have to like go back and forth. Like, have a little, ring, bzz, I don't care. Something to show, hey, the phone rang, and now he picked up the phone and he's talking on it.
It's really dumb when they do that stuff. That's the problem. All these editors, but nothing's actually getting done. They're throwing, what do you expect? These people don't have they're not passionate when it comes to the product, and I think that shows in a lot of the events. I mean, especially in the past couple of years. I used to dislike Brad Meltzer to the point where I because the whole, the Sue Dibney, the retcon rape, and all that other horrible stuff that happened in Identity Crisis. And it turns out it was like all Dan Didio. Didio was like, the rape pages are in. Like, what? This is like that kind of stuff. I was like, oh, I felt so bad for like disliking Meltzer as much as I did, because I was like, he's just doing what he's told. He's worked for hire. He's worked, It's like oh, because editors want to be like editors that want to be writers. Very rarely does this actually work out. Like Mark Waid, he was an editor before he was a writer. As far as writing books. Same thing with Tomasi, who's a great writer, but he was an editor first. But then you have somebody like Dan Didio who like, oh, I'm an editor, but I want to be a writer too. So I'll write Metal Men and I'll write OMAC and I'll write these books. If it wasn't for
well, now then he writes the books for DC and he has to cancel his own books.
Exactly. You can't even he's like I think he probably keeps some things around a little longer than they should. But
I don't know. I'm kind of mad that he canceled Sideways, because like it's finally getting interesting, and then it's going to end in, I think, January or February.
Wait. Sideways is going away?
Yep.
Oh. Yep. Is Silencer going away? Please tell me it's not, because that's like that's like my bedrock.
I don't think it is. I know it might have been Silencer. There was one other New Age title that was also going away, and I know somebody mentioned they wished it was Curse of Brimstone, but it wasn't. I doubt it would be the Terrifics. And
actually, I think I heard somebody say that Damage was going away.
see that Damage.
I saw that on Twitter like this morning.
I read the first few issues of that, and nothing happens in it. It was like one issue's worth of story stretched out over 3.
They hampered the origin, but it's finally now that I would say the first 2 arcs are done, and they've kind of set him to be his own kind of entity. It's a little bit better. I think somebody on Twitter made a good comparison. It's like a summer action movie. You don't expect to get a lot of plot out of it. You open it up, you see a big guy beating a whole team, or going toe to toe with Wonder Woman, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome, and you get some dialogue here and there, and then the end, and you're like, meh, that was fun. That was fun to look at. That was a pretty book.
I'm looking at the ICV2 top 500 comic sales chart for November, and we have where's it at? Sideways number 10 at 11,629 copies sold. Then Damage 11 sold 11,501.
Yeah, I didn't know the New Age were going that bad.
Yeah, there's some of them, like Silencer 11 is at 10,018 copies. That's not good at all.
See, and you know what? I at least respect DC for like going out on a limb and bringing these like, hey, we're gonna go off the reservation and try something completely different, and we're not gonna do it like half-heartedly, where this is a new hero, but it's Iron Man, but it's a girl instead, or it's Thor, but it's a girl instead. They're like, you know what? We're gonna come up with new heroes, completely new heroes. Here we go. Well, this is what you get.
They just did Marvel though. It's like Sideways is Spider-Man, Silencer is Punisher, Damage is Hulk. It's like that's how.
Yeah, but that stuff like that's happened since the dawn of comics. I mean, look at Thanos and Darkseid.
But they did, spinning out of the whole Death and Return of Superman, and then eventually, down the line, Natasha Irons became Steel. She's still showing up in the Titans book, and that's a better female Iron Man. They already did that. It was called Steel, Natasha Irons. It's actually written and done well, and people like her that know of her.
She's actually in the Titans comic. She's actually very likable. She's a very likable character.
Yeah, I like her. I like the character a lot. I've not ever disliked her. I just wish she was. That's why I love 52 so much, because she had a big role in that. Curse of Brimstone number 8, 9,463 copies.
That is a book where that was a book I subbed to, and I kept reading in hopes of it would get better, and it never did. It would just be confusing with poor art and really shitty stories. But then the last issue, I think it was number 11, whatever came out like 2 weeks ago, he like fights Dr. Fate, and it's just this random battle with him and Dr. Fate, but then it ends with like his sister like breaking in on this serial killer that they had like bumped into a couple issues back with like a shotgun, and she's just like, time to die, Joe, and you're just like, oh shit, like what's going on? Like now this is kind of interesting. Like you've kind of got me a little bit like this. Why was this storytelling, throughout the first like 10 issues?
Yeah, it's just stuff like that happens, like where eventually it picks up steam, and then you're like, oh yeah, it's gonna go away because nobody's reading it, because they drag their feet a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I just looked at something, and I know it's not an event comic, but we kind of diverged a bit, and we're probably gonna wrap up shortly. But Cyber Force number 7, which is co-written by Matt Hawkins, who basically runs Top Cow, and the other co-writer is Brian Hill, everybody's favorite writer, it seems. The book is issue 7. I read issue 1. I That's one of those books I just threw right. I just folded it in half and threw it in the trash. I hated that book. And the reason I hate that book is it's Cyberforce. Cyberforce is a book. It's not the greatest book of all time, but it's a simple, straightforward. A guy named Stryker who has 3 arms on one side and are made of gold, and he has like a Kano eye. It's like straight up Mortal Kombat kind of stuff. Stryker as well. Come on. And you have this Velocity, a girl who can run real fast. There's cybernetic implants, and there's like future tech. So it's like this really, you go Johnny Mnemonic, Matrix. You have real fun with it. The first issue is it boils down to a double page sequence where a woman is walking in front of an explosion, and then the rest of the issue is about medical consent, and that's it. And I was like, you wasted my $4 with this garbage. And it has like, I should have known the artwork and the interior would not match the cover because the cover was Silvestri. But I was like, okay, they're just doing that because Silvestri created the comic back in the day. So everybody's like, oh, Brian Edward Hill, like he could do no wrong. And I'm like, Cyberforce. Cyberforce number 7 from this $3.99 still, 3,506 copies.
Dang. Wow.
They should just cancel it. Just call. It's not getting better. The sales. This is stuff like this. I'm looking at these like sales numbers. I'm like, how can they? Like if it was a creator-owned book, if somebody was doing everything themselves, writing it, drawing it, lettering, coloring, all that stuff, like where you don't have to pay nobody else. I'm like, how are they making a profit on this stuff? Because it's like I'm looking through the list, like, oh god, it's kind of depressing to look at it. Oh my lord! But that's that's like what do you expect really at the end of the day? I mean, it's. Oof. But yeah, I think that's the issue with comics of today, where sales don't do so well, but with events, you can boost everything. You get the variant covers and all that stuff. So.
All right. So I found that article. So it looks like Curse of Brimstone and Sideways will both release their final issues next year, leaving only 3 survivors: Silencer, Damage, and the Terrifics.
As long as Silencer continues, I'm happy. Dan Abnett can just keep writing whatever he wants, and I'll keep buying it in that book, and it'll be great. That man, he's one of those writers like Michael Stackpole. Like I read his stuff, and it's just this trash, and it's beautiful. It's just pulp. Like there's no pretense to it. It's like, here, have this great pulp story, and
but see, that's fun. Like that's
it is.
what
I love it.
That's what gets you in. Like comics should be fun. I don't need all of the extra fluff. It's like, give me something that I'm gonna sit there and enjoy, and it just be mine. Turn off the world for a couple minutes and enjoy some entertainment.
Well, that's what I do with my stuff. Like I don't want some kind of ulterior motive and messages and all that kind of stuff. I just want stuff I would enjoy reading. And like what I'm working on now, a little self-grandizing. I've completed 11 pages of inks, so that's good. I'm patting myself on the back. Which another 21 pages to go because it's a 32-page book.
So you're gonna start your Indiegogo, and it's gonna ship in February.
And actually, I might, if I'm lucky, I might actually have the thing done and ready for sale. Like, because that's what I do, folks. I actually make the book first before hey, you can buy it now. Not you can buy it 6 months from now or 9 months from now. It's like, hey, the book, damn you, Mark Waid. It's May and I lost my deal and my book is supposed to come out in August. Cue December. Well, we're still adjusting the file. What? What? Like, this is BS, man. Come on. It's like adapt, overcome. That's the Marine saying right there. You don't pull this. Well, if I had AP backing me up, we wouldn't have this problem. Oh God, I don't do that kind of stuff. I just put the comics out there. If you like it, great. If you don't like DIY stuff, you need something full colored and glossy stock and where you have to wait months for. I do it. I'm where people talking about taking back certain stuff in comics, and then going for a little tangent real quick, but I'm doing the do-it-yourself stuff where most of that is very left-leaning, communist, cult-like stuff, whatever, bleeding heart. I did the one show I've ever done. It was at a gay church in Denver, Colorado. had cult members try to recruit me. Their hands are all like their palms of their hands are all like ravaged, like they were like being like, I don't know if they're being burned or just manual labor without gloves, some kind of like ritual, maybe like trying to like get them to be assimilate to the cult better. And people come around like, what's your comic mean? And I'm like, it's entertainment. It's not really supposed to mean anything. I don't have any ulterior motive. You read into it what you want. And they were upset. They were expecting me to like be bashing, at that time, this is 2016. This was June of 2016, like bashing Trump or something. I mean, it's like you have comics like that. I mean, you had stuff like that at this show. I'm like, I don't do that. I mean, I ain't saying I would never do that, but this is not that point. That's whatever. I mean, I'm talking about getting political with comics or whatever. But it's like,
well, that's like the comment I made earlier today about the article about like Captain America or Captain Britain, takes his stance on Brexit, and he says in Avengers 11, he's like, they're doing it like an initiative, and he's like, whatever it is, like, don't leave me out. And he's like, no Brexit jokes. Like, that's the line, and like the writer of the article like read so far into that like, oh, he's standing firm that he needs to be a part of the international community and blah blah blah, and like he's not for Brexit and this and that, and it's like he said no, like just no jokes. Like you don't need to read 8 levels into it. Like that was it.
Well, that's the problem. Like I like dumb comics. I like dumb fun, and it's like that's where how you like how you like the Silencer. That's how I like my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like have you ever read this? Again, totally off base, but there is a book. There is a writer artist. His name is Benjamin Marra. He did a book called Amwat, One Man War on Terror. It is the dumbest. It's graphic. It's dumb. It's about a guy who fights terrorism, and the cover is him cutting a guy's head off with a katana.
Sold.
And there's another book he did called Night Moves, and it's about serial killers and cults in like a 1980s like Miami kind of thing. It's like Miami Vice meets like some kind of sleazy, almost like not snuff film, but it's like the sleazy cult. Like there's a vigilante woman riding around on a motorcycle in lingerie with a motorcycle helmet and killing people. This is the kind of stuff we need more of. We don't need. It's like. Well, I said we don't. Okay, we need more comics in general, like more choices, not just like
the same heroes with new writers.
Hey, well, it's Spider-Man, but with a twist. Oh, it's like Captain America, but he fights real life criminals.
It's Captain America, but he's actually a Hydra agent.
Oh god, that too. It's like, well, even the creator-owned stuff. It's like you want to tackle real-world issues. Good luck, but it takes me right out of the product. It's like if you wanted to do like, oh, Hydra equates Nazis, you want to battle not okay, fine. That's fine, but be a little creative about it. This whole idea of like battling real life gangsters or criminals or gangs, and it's like, good luck with that, because if they decide they're pissed at you, they'll come after you. What you gonna do about that?
Well, that's I read the new was it the Spider-Man Miles Morales #1. And I got it.
Yeah, I saw that. I think I saw you tweet about that.
I got it, and it wasn't bad except for one page. Like,
he's the first black superhero. What are you talking about? It's the best book ever.
the very first one. The very first one ever. But like pretty much the most of the issue kind of gives a quick origin of everything. Again, one, I didn't like how Miles called his dad Jeff. That's not his name. His name's Jefferson. They've never called him Jeff in the comics ever. The fact that he called him that was just kind of like that's the writer not knowing anything about the characters. But then, it kind of goes through like how he's dealing with being Spider-Man, which is fine. I mean, hey, he's supposed to be a teenager. He's supposed to be kind of having to juggle the whole relationship, school.
So we're just retreading.
We're retreading. Hey, we're retreading Peter Parker from 1970. But there was one page where he goes home to visit his mom from school,
And he pulls up
and
Pornhub on his phone.
huh?
Nothing.
So he goes home to visit his mom from school or whatever, and of course his mom's Puerto Rican, and she's reading a paper about immigrants detained. She's like, oh, like people are afraid to bring their children to the hospital because they're afraid they're going to get deported. And I'm like, why does that? And Miles says something along the lines of like, it's a it's strange, it's a something about the world outside or whatever. And I'm just like, that has why is that even in the comic? That has nothing to do with the character itself. That is solely an opinion. People are afraid. It's like, why is that even there? This is supposed to be. I get you're trying to give the character turmoil and something to mull over, but you don't need to have such blatant political stances in a book just to make you feel good and sleep better at night.
Well, this is a world where we've had aliens with scrolls that invaded, Galactus coming down trying to eat the planet. All these other horrible things have happened, and that's when they bring in real world stuff. It's like when they touch upon like a character with cancer or like fatal diseases or illnesses or wounds and stuff like that. Like the whole Batgirl thing. Like, oh, Batgirl was crippled by the Joker. Hello, Lazarus Pit. I won't use Lazarus Pit because it'll make me crazy. I'm like, whatever. Don't give like they pull this stuff. It's like this, cybernetic implants. We call it Ray Palmer. Ray Palmer and Ted Cord could team up and create like some cybernetic implants so she can walk again. But then it's like this idea of like you could do that in a closed circuit in a mini series or create our own book where you didn't have to worry about this shared universe stuff. But once you start sharing universes, it becomes a problem. It's like the same universe where he's, all opining about this is the world out there and there's hateful people and like these people just want a better life. And it's like, well, how about this? You got the other superheroes. You got they could go down there and solve the.
I think that's exactly what the problem is. Is the world is now too big. These universes are too big. Back in the day, X-Men stuck to X-Men books. You had Captain America was in a Captain America book. Spider-Man was in Spider-Man book. Every once in a while, you were treated to a little Easter egg or an acknowledgement that the others did exist, but it was very few and far between. Now you have, these huge global, consequences. Okay, like the new Avengers. Okay, the final host is coming and terrorizing the Earth or whatever. Well, meanwhile, Venom is dealing with a symbiote dragon, and he makes mention of, oh, well, all the heroes are, doing this. It's like, I don't need that. Like, let Venom just take care of his shit. Like, let him do his thing. Like, he doesn't need an excuse to handle this because all the other heroes are gone. Like, this is his comic. No one else should be in it, Maybe Spider-Man pop up every once in a while, but that's it.
How great would it be if they actually like Venom's like, hey, I need your help. I'm not gonna help you, Venom. I know what you're up to. I know what your game is. That was many years ago. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, I mean, like,
give me some help.
And it kind of. So I was it? I think it was like the first issue of X-Men Red. It was the only one I bought. It was the only one I read. But
made that mistake. You won't make that mistake again.
Yeah, I didn't. That was one of those that goes into my one-off pile in my boxes. But there's it opens up with a little girl and she's being terrorized because there's a protest of anti-mutant people coming to get her and this and that, and I'm like, I get mutants were a metaphor back in the 60s, for social injustice and this and that, but you can't have that type of injustice towards a mutant and then turn around and be like, oh, like these heroes are okay. Oh, but you're a mutant? No, I don't like that. I don't like that. Like maybe if you were an Avenger, that'd be totally different. But you were just nope, I don't like it. Oh, Inhumans? No, Inhumans are fine. Like that's cool. Like humans are fine with Inhumans, but like mutants, no, like hit the bricks.
They covered that in like one of the initiative books. Gyrick is talking to who's that dude that has the big like alien force field projecting glove? He's a black guy. He trained all the initiative recruits. I forget his name. Is it Gauntlet?
That might be it. I don't really remember that guy.
Anyway, they're like in the back of Gyrick's limo or something, and he's like, what's wrong with mutants? And he's like, yeah, because mutants didn't get their powers the old-fashioned way, like God intended, from accidents or being an alien. Or it's like, what?
But that's it. It's like you in a world where Iron Man and all these other heroes again are favored by humanity, but then in some small rural town, some hick is like, oh damn mutants, like you better get on out. It's like that's not believable. Like that's
stop appropriating my culture.
Yeah, you better get your culture on out of here.
Well, what gets me is it's like the whole idea of X-Men, and I've always disliked the idea. Like I remember when the first X-Men movie was coming out, they did a Fox TV like promo, like it's like with some original footage, and then had interviews with the cast, some behind the scenes stuff for the X-Men movie, because on Fox TV and Fox movie for the X-Men movie, they're talking about how it's like talking about black people and homosexuality and people being oppressed, and X-Men's like a metaphor for it. I'm like, that's a horrible metaphor. So it's basically saying they're being persecuted for being different. Last time I checked, a gay man can't shoot lasers from his eyes or have ability to burn people alive with his mind.
You haven't been to San Francisco lately.
Yeah, well, that's a good point.
Well, I mean,
fair enough, sir. Fair enough.
But that's kind of my point is, okay, yeah, the metaphor would work if the X-Men were off on their own in their own universe. Like if the X-Men, if mutants existed in a world where there were no other superheroes, right? If they were off on their own, yeah, I could get it's 2018 and there's people who are afraid of people with powers. 100% would be down for that. But you have this, again, Marvel wants everything to be interconnected, everything to be linked, everything to have little Easter eggs for the next plot, And so you have all of that stuff. It doesn't make sense to have plot lines that would make sense in an X-Men world, in a world in which other heroes live and are honored and kind of have a lot of revere to them.
Well, that's the deal. I mean, you're looking at a world where I've always seen the X-Men as equivalent of the Greek Roman gods, where you eventually you worship them at once. You can either worship them or cast them out. And this idea, the whole God is dead, that famous headline. And this idea of humans with the power of gods and knowing how cruel and evil and horrible humans can be, and the idea of giving them that power. And it's like this, I think there was an issue of X-Men where there was a kid who let out like some kind of like pheromone or something that killed everybody within like a certain mile radius. Wolverine was sent in to kill him because there's like nothing they could do. It's like, you can't really, control that ability. It was like apparently innate. Like, unless, excuse me, mutant control collar, Genosha, put that around his neck, maybe have some old Mr. Sinister experiments, and no, we have to go kill him. Which is like that. That's the thing. They forget their own history. It's like mutant control collar, and just send them to like a one of those like there's like the island somewhere in the one of these Japanese islands used to be a mining facility. Just send them there, and then put like buoys around it. It's like, don't come here. like
Oh, the
airdrop
abandoned
food.
city one. Yeah. Yeah, I know the island you're talking about.
Exactly. So yeah, do something like that. It's like that right there. But no, we have to have Wolverine go in and kill him. And I'm like, that's just dumb. But this idea of wrapping your head around the characters and doing them justice, and like Spider-Man, okay, Miles Morales Spider-Man would work if he was the only hero in that universe. Like this idea of this is a guy who, like he, but he can say, well, I don't belong to either. It's like, with his parentage, it's like, well, he, it's I know the whole Bendis stuff was. I've never liked Miles. I've never liked him as a character. Miguel O'Hara, on the other hand, I love him. Spider-Man 2099, can't go wrong with him. But the Miles stuff, it just, I've never. It just felt it felt forced. But that's how it came off to me, anyways. But looking upon these characters and seeing how they interact with this shared universe, it's more of a detriment than it is a boon. But with the with the DC stuff, though, it doesn't bother me as much. But Marvel, because it's like supposed to be more realistic and more character driven, all this horrible stuff happens. Like, where are the heroes at? Well, they're over here. You got to explain where they are. You don't like the DC stuff. It's just like, oh, whatever happens, happens. Like you can say it's an imaginary story. It never really happened to begin with. But I miss stuff like that. But what can you do?
Well, again, I missed the time when you could read one book and that's okay. I like Spider-Man. I could get my Spider-Man fill from the Amazing Spider-Man. Well, now stuff happens in Spider-Man, then you have Spectacular Spider-Man, but then Spider-Man might show up in an event, and something that happens in that event might completely change something about the character. So now, from issue, 20 to 22, something has completely changed, and the Spider-Man you used to like, you don't like anymore because of this, and it's like they're kind of forcing you to again have to pick up everything, and it's making comic collecting almost, they're making it for the rich. You can't sit there and buy every book or even have the time to read it. Like I don't have time to. I barely make it through my pull list every week as it is.
I know the feeling. I know that, like, especially the buying of the books. Like right now, the only guaranteed book I buy on a regular basis is Hawkman, and that's it. That's the only one that's been consistently worth my time. And I really like the idea of doing events as a original graphic novel, like say 100-page, 120-page book. I kind of treat it like a movie. And put it advertise it, boom, put it out in the middle of the summer, or hell, basically it will be 120 pages, but break it down to 5, 6, 20-page issues, do them weekly, like a weekly event kind of deal, and then you have the trade paperback ready to go a month after the last issue drops. So you missed it out the first time, here you go. Gonna inform what's on. That'd be fun.
I kind of I like the direction. I like and I don't like the direction that Marvel's kind of going in with more of these mini series based events, because then again, if you're not an X-Men person, you're not going to read Extermination. You're not going to read. You don't have to. If you're not a Spider-Man person, you don't have to read Spider-Geddon. But if you are a fan of the Marvel Universe, you have to read Infinity War because you have to know what's going on. I'd rather them go to these more 5-issue, blocks in series, and if you're going to have something major happen there instead of making me waste, $3.99 an issue for 12 issues for an entire year, only to start the process over again. It's ridiculous.
Well, they should do do the Maximum Carnage deal. Okay, you got this big event coming up, advertising all the books, and then have what they used to do, the checklist. Part 1 is this issue, part 2 is this issue. Make sure it's clear, and then it's and the last page of that issue before, make sure you read this for the complete story. So You read, it starts in Avengers, or it starts in Captain America, then it goes to Spider-Man, then it goes to Avengers, then it goes to X-Men, then it goes to something else, and then the event's over. That's it. It's like 1 month deal. But all these books that come out in that month, there you go. So if you don't want to read the event, you just skip that issue.
Yep.
And they'll do a summary, they have that summary page, and summarize what happened, for the full story, or read this, that, whatever. But that right there is something they should go back to. So it's like you're picking up these issues, and it means more. I think that means more than it's a separate thing off its own book for $5.99 an issue, that kind of stuff. I'd rather see the whole Maximum Carnage deal come back than this whole like what they do now, where it's like it's over. Like when they milked the whole Age of Apocalypse stuff with, oh god. I remember this just came back to me. One of the writers for the whole the Return of the Age of Apocalypse was Akira Yoshida. Yeah. So it's like,
who is that?
the daimyo, the shogun, is not very pleased. Why is a Polish man? Why is a Polish man imitating one of my samurai? So it's like, that's. I mean, if you're gonna have an alias, I mean, at least choose an appropriate alias. I'm not gonna choose an alias of Tyrone Raekwon or something like that. Like, no, won't work.
Laquanda.
Yeah.
LaShonda.
That's a good one. LaShonda King, because we was king.
That's
right?
a little too close. That's a little too close. You have to get a little tossed up a little bit. Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this. So out of since we're on events, what do you guys think is the most? I wouldn't say like worst event, but maybe worst handled event of recent.
Oh, God.
What time frame? Well, what time frame?
Whatever. I say recent. Whatever storyline, however far back you want to go.
Okay,
handled.
I'll go first. Age of X, which is the X-Men arc, where it basically turns out it was like all a dream within it was happening. It was like basically it was all a dream. You were trapped inside. I believe it was Legion's mind at that point. I'm like, oh, of course they do that. Yeah, it's one of those things. It was like a pointless book. Now, thankfully, I never paid for these issues. I was given the issues. And it was one of those things, I wish I could get my money back, even though I didn't spend money on it. It was like, It had potential. This idea of like this kind of like, it reminded me of a Never-Ending Story a little bit, like with the nothing creeping in, eating kind of reality. This could be interesting. No, it wasn't. So, yeah, but it's an Age of X for me.
All right. What about you, Elzbar?
Boy, I was just thinking about that. So I got two answers. One is like the worst / most pointless, and the other is most disappointing.
All right. Go disappointing first.
I was going to do disappointing first, and that's World War Hulk.
Okay.
I disagree. I
Absolutely unsatisfying ending. There's all this stuff built up. Doctor Strange is summoning Zom, a demon that was kicked out of the universe because he's too dangerous. And what happens? Nothing. He doesn't even show up for the party. Like, all through the whole book, there's just disappointment after disappointment because they don't let these people do the stuff that they can do with their full power levels. The only guy who really did something cool with his full power level was freaking Iron Fist, who broke, what was the big stone guy's name? He broke his arm and broke his own arm in the frog. Korg, yeah. He punched Korg, broke Korg's arm, defending
One
Doctor
of my favorite
Strange.
Characters from Thor Ragnarok, by the way.
He was a hoot in Thor Ragnarok. I got to give you that one. So anyway, that was the most disappointing because we spent this whole time building up to one climactic fight after another, and at the end, the Sentry and the Hulk hug it out, and that's it. Done. Screw that book. They were supposed to level New York City and then hug it out. Like, are you still mad? I was never mad at you, bro. Then why are we fighting? I don't know. Hug. End of it. Right there. That's what I wanted. It didn't happen, though. Anyway.
I'm about to say, is like, you know what it could have gone? I would have gone a Roadhouse route. Like, Hulk grabs a sentry. Hulk grabs sentries. Like, pardon my French, folks. I used to fuck guys like you on World War Hulk, on Planet Hulk.
Yeah.
It's like, go full Roadhouse with that. Because he's got the blonde hair and everything.
The roundhouse kick.
So something like that. Like it's just there's all this stuff that could have been awesome and it didn't happen. And the worst, my God, it has to be the Return of Wolverine, which is what, like 64 comic books now. Like
it's been going strong since like I want to say like March or so.
Yeah, there's been like 4 issues a month of this and spin-off series related to it since March. Yeah.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Oh, let's go to Madripoor. Nothing happened in that book. I flipped through it in the store. It's like there's literally nothing happening in these pages, and that went on for like 4 issues.
Oh, yeah. So you had them staggered too, to where one, it was like it was 4 different series, and each one was a week after the other. So then they would repeat, every 4 weeks. So if you wanted all of them, you were just literally shelling out the money every week, for 12 weeks, Or no, it was 16 weeks, even worse.
And that's like, what, $4 an issue? So there you go. You're
Weren't
spending...
those $5 issues?
Oh, were it 5 or 4?
Don't make me have to go check, because I really hope
I thought they were
$4.99
like Extermination is. Maybe I'm wrong.
They might. Well, I'll have to look that up real quick. But yeah, that right there just goes to show, like, that's Cebulski for you. It's like I was kind of thinking for a little bit. I was thinking, you know what, he might be able to write a ship. I probably won't never come back and read the books. But I was like, give him the benefit of the doubt. Then I find out that the word went around. It may be just BS, but that he has it turned so he only sees messages or mentions from people he follows. And this is a guy that this is the guy that's going to be like listening to the people. They don't care, But I just find it so funny to see this stuff like this. These supposed creators, these editors, and they come in like he's supposed to like write the ship, and he just ran it right into the rocks all over again.
So mine, at least for most disappointing, is the new Secret Wars. Just because it completely broke every promise that it was supposed to make. And even to let's see, 2.5, 3 years later, we're finally getting answers to what happened at the end. And some of those answers still aren't like answered at all. Like, why is Miles in the 616 universe? He just is there now. Does he remember his past universe? Who knows?
Forget it.
Never answered that.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, continuity does not matter. But
how did Maz Kanata get the Anakin Skywalker lightsaber? Doesn't matter now. It's been destroyed.
Yeah,
there was probably a hand with it that went with it. They just didn't get the hand out of the box the lightsaber was with.
Yeah, there's a separate box. But the whole point of Secret Wars was going to be the great resetting. Okay, we're going to hit the reboot button. We're going to do this. The Ultimate Universe is going to collide with the regular universe, and we're going to spawn off, and what's going to happen is going to be so crazy. And what do you get? Just continuations of the same storylines that had been on hiatus for an entire summer, while they were doing this, because the only thing they were putting out while they were doing Secret Wars were Battle World tie-ins, which were just what ifs. What if series
that mean nothing. Yeah,
that didn't mean anything. And then they tried to focus group and take what was good out of those what ifs. Like, you got, Old Man Logan, came back for a series. But then you had like Red Wolf, was it 1601? Not 1601.
1602.
Yeah, whatever the Old West Battle World.
Oh, it was 1872. I think
1872. Was awesome. Okay, you had, the kind of Old West characters. All the characters seemed to have fit how they, their actual present day counterparts. And then what do? You rip out Red Wolf, who could have been an interesting character, and then you bring him into the present day for like a 6-issue bleh. And it's so boring and bland, and no one liked it, and it got canceled immediately. Again, horribly disappointing. It was the first event I had read in a very long time, and then it made me very sad. That and it kept getting pushed. I don't know if it was Hickman wasn't producing fast enough, or the editors were wanting it, but I remember it was supposed to be a 7-issue event, and then it became an 8-issue event, and then like by issue 6, it was a 9-issue event.
That's just bad planning. That's editorial for you. The worst thing, years and years, I actually met Hickman back in 2008 at Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina, and this is who was doing. He had done Nightly News. He was working on Pax Romana, which is a time traveling Catholic mercenaries go back to rewrite history. It's strange. It's there's bits of it very info dump, like it's like kind of West Wing ish, but with mercenaries. A lot of info stuff, very visually. It's odd. It's digital art. It's clearly digital art. So but I enjoyed the book a lot. It's very, very strange. I love odd stuff like it. But that day on the convention floor. That I was talking to him and everything. He got called away, and that was the call was from Marvel. That's the whole Secret Warriors book, this first Marvel book.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy that he just was doing his own creator-owned stuff, and then the whole Marvel deal. And I after meeting him, like, I think he's a little, I'd say, willful enough that the fact that the editorial was like, yeah, you got to do this, you got to do that, and he's probably like, oh, I could do my own creator-owned stuff. I could do East to West and not have to put up with this, that kind of stuff. And I think it's probably like some kind of I don't want to blame him considering how editorial is. Like they get a little power trippy and I get to tell the writer what to do. I'm the one that's really in charge and that kind of deal.
Blame him anyway. Who cares?
Yeah. Who cares?
I care. Damn it.
Well, that's the thing. It's like yeah. It was a well-written book, and if you read it as an event, if you just read the new Secret Wars, it's very good, and you're kind of it's this kind of a twisted struggle with Doom and himself kind of thing, and you're like, okay, but then again, you hit the reset button, and then nothing matters. Do people that were in this world remember what was happening in the other world? Did they, we do this 8-month flash forward in continuity, but does any of it, did any of that even matter? Oh no, actual 8 months did pass. Now we have to do little flashbacks to see what happened in those 8 months. Oh, Cyclops died in that 8 months. Oh, the Hulk went underground in the 8 months. That's why you have this new Hulk. It made no sense. So it's like for the 8 months that Secret Wars went on, history kept going, but we just didn't see it. And it's like it kind of felt like a big ripoff.
Yeah, that is ripoff. And you made me remember something I had kind of blocked out. I remember hating this book at the time, but then kind of just try to get it out of my system completely, forget about it until and I remember hating it again, and then it was one of those things just blocked it out again. Secret War, Brian Bendis and Gabriel Del Otto.
That's the early 2000s.
Yeah, that's the one where Nick Fury screws the pooch with a mission to Latveria, like Wolverine, Luke Cage, Daredevil.
No, let's not talk about this.
Yeah.
That was dumb. It's not as bad as some other stuff, but that was dumb. That was just, oh my god.
The worst part is it took, I don't know if it was an editorial decision or Bendis taking Nick Fury out of action for that long. That right there just bothered me. The fact that like I like Nick Fury, and then taking him out of action for so long, and like I think he didn't show back up to what is it where he became Watcher, or whatever, that one.
Oh,
Or,
Original Sin.
Yeah, Original Sin. I think that's the first time they really brought him back, because he popped up for a brief cameo in Secret Warriors, and that's about it.
There is no Nick Fury. He's just a bunch of life model decoys at this point, all copying each other.
Yeah.
Oh no, there is a Nick Fury, but he looks exactly like the Nick Fury from the Ultimate Universe, but he's actually Nick Fury Jr. No, he looks like Samuel L. Jackson, but we don't say that. We don't mention that part.
Why did you mention that part?
Oh, God. See, this is why I dislike the whole corporate synergy thing, because it ain't the dog wagging the tail; it's the tail wagging the dog.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But hey, movies make the money. Hey, let's change the comics to be like the movies. No one reads the comics. It's like,
well, that's the thing. It's like, how about, it's like, yeah, who are you? Who is the movie for? Is it for the fans, or are you just trying to get random people to go, oh, Captain Marvel? That's the first female superhero to have a movie. Like, I can't wait for that. And you're like, okay, sure.
It's like,
okay.
Wonder Woman. What?
Yeah.
Wonder who?
Yeah, Wonder Woman came out like 2 years ago. It's like you
Barbed
forgotten
Wire.
that already.
Mid-90s.
Oh, don't
Barbed
you
Wire.
dare! Don't you dare!
It's a thing. It happened.
No, excuse me. Supergirl, 1984.
Yeah. There's so many.
She flew out of the Popeyes chicken. She fought an invisible monster because they didn't have the budget to finish the effects.
No, but I mean, I get like probably more people are going to go see the movie, and that's going to make millions and billions of dollars or whatever. But if anything, at least for me, I'm the type of person, I see a movie and then I'm like, oh, I'll read the book and see what's different. Like, I want to see how that character, like maybe they would have acted this way. Oh, that character is like that, but maybe they're like I don't care that there are differences, but I just don't try and change a character in the source material to be more like the character that they're being represented of on screen. Keep them true, but
keep the character true in the spirit of the book, or spirit of the property, the concept true. You could change the details. It's like Batman 89. Is it like the comics at the time? Oh, hell no. They references it's some Dark Knight Returns, a little bit stuff in there, and there's some Golden Age Batman. There's some of the 80s
dark movie, especially Batman Returns.
Batman Returns, like it's not even a Batman movie at that point. It's just a case study on Penguin and Catwoman.
Yeah,
it's disgusting. It's the whole Penguin eating the raw fish, biting the guy's nose off, that kind of stuff. Like picking up the rotten hand, like, hey, hello, friend Max. That kind of stuff.
It was marketed towards kids too.
Yeah, and then we get you get Batman Forever, which I kind of enjoy, even though it's really bad at times, really, really bad.
But it was campy and it was fun, and again, when you were growing up at that time, what was that, 94, 90,
95? I'm not
95-ish. It's like I was 10, 11 years old. Of course,
same here.
It's right up my alley. That's the perfect thing. I loved Batman Forever.
Batman flying by, giving the thumbs up to Gordon.
Yeah. But then jump to Batman and Robin. At that point, I had grown out of that and realized how stupid that version of Batman was. And I was like, nope.
But it's stuff like that, though. It's like they're keeping the spirit alive, and I think that's a problem with some of these stories, and even just the movies as well. It's that they can't. You get these writers in there that don't, House of M. Everybody's like, oh, I loved House of M. I didn't. I didn't like the direction. I get what they were going for. It just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right to me. It was just the Elseworld story. That's all it was. Or What If story.
Yeah.
Marvel, but that's all it felt like. It just felt like a prolonged what if issue.
I don't mind if they do those what ifs, but yeah, at least be upfront with them. Don't try and make them canon. Like I'm sitting here, let's I'll circle this all the way back to the beginning of the stream, back to Doomsday Clock. Like how does Doomsday Clock fit into the continuity of the DC universe? Like
it doesn't. It's getting ready to reset the whole thing. The whole point is Dr. Manhattan is setting the DC universe up for the same thing that happened to his universe.
Right, but didn't that already happen? Like, wasn't he the cause for Flashpoint? Like, he set up the New 52s and then brought back the new universe to begin with.
So Dr. Manhattan's a dick. I mean, he's not just showing it; he just is one.
He's just an asshole.
Oh God! But you're right, though. I mean, this is I mean, I understand that this whole Doomsday Clock is holding up the Legion of Superheroes book and it's holding up the Justice Society book, but at this point, I like, as long as Hawkman ain't affected, I don't care. but once Hawkman gets affected, I'm gonna start caring, and if it depends on how bad it is, I'm just gonna drop the book.
Well,
I'm not gonna.
Like, you gotta think too. It's like, so you have this huge continuity, and you have Doomsday Clock, which now will be a multi-year event by the time it's done. Let's see, it started in January this year. It won't end.
No. It started. The Doomsday Clock started November of last year.
That's right. It went November, December. Then it switched to bi-monthly in January. So yeah, it'll span 3 years by the time it's complete. And you have it, and it's supposed to be this grandiose scale. Well, reading Justice League, dealing with the fallout from the Source Wall, from Metal, and all of that, like, that seems more contained in what a giant event should be. Like, they're dealing with the totality or whatever, and trying to gather that, and they just had the drowned Earth. Those events seem more in line with the direction of the DC universe. The Doomsday Clock just seems like an appeasement to try and hold the rights to Watchmen a little longer by putting this out and being like, yeah, this seems like a really good idea. Let's go ahead and do it.
Well, as long as they keep it in print, as long as they keep Watchmen in print, they got it. Like that. That's I think Alan Moore probably should have known they would have screwed him over either way. But the whole just buy me out, just buy my rights out. But this is the corporations. This is what you got to deal with. And with Doomsday Clock and with the rest of this, I don't see this being leading to some like, oh, glorious promised land. I don't think nobody ever promised that, but for these stories and stuff, I'm just thinking, oh, it'll be Watchmen versus the Justice League or something like that. It's the Minutemen versus the Justice League, even though call it Watchmen just for the name value alone, the marquee value.
But it's not even that. It's been, I don't even, what is it, 7 issues now? 7 issues of just 8. See, I don't even know. Like, I can't even pin back and look at, like, think of what was going on. Again, I remember there was the one issue that focused on the new Rorschach, and then some stuff with Marionette and Mime.
Oh, that was so good.
Yeah, like, but what's the, like, yeah, if you look at each issue as an individual issue, yeah, they're good issues, but it's like, what is the overall story? Like, we're 8 issues in, and I still don't, I'm still not seeing the puzzle pieces come together yet.
Yeah, that's bad. Like, at this point in Watchmen, the pieces are already starting to form into place. Like, well, it's not the same thing. You're writing a sequel to Watchmen. You're going to be compared, whether you like it or not, to Watchmen.
You need at least, I think it, there has to be an overall arc to the book. You don't need to know the plot summaries for every issue going forward, but it's like, okay, Mr. Manhattan's going to destroy the DC universe. Is that the plot? Because if it is, they haven't really come out and said. They just said, oh, this is going to be the Watchmen and the DC universe. It's okay. What does that mean?
It means just get ready for a reboot in
the new
5-6 more months, and there'll be a whole new DC universe that'll have the Watchmen characters integrated into it. Mm-hmm. There'll be like a Dr. Manhattan ongoing where he does Dr. Manhattan things.
There'll be a comedian.
Oh yeah, just wait for that. Hopefully, we'll get a mime and marionette ongoing where they just go around randomly murdering people as they try to find their kid. Like,
Oh.
yes, I'm sold. Give me that book. I just want to watch them kill each other or kill people, and then like kiss each other and never say anything to each other. It'll be great.
Or like she just talks and he just like looks. I will say, like, I was like, when, you know, the first issue when he's like, I got to get my guns, and, you know, he gets them and they're just, you know, and you're like, oh, he's just crazy. And then, like,
He's got a freaking invisible gun.
And then, yeah, he starts shooting, and I was like, oh, damn, those are real guns. I'm like, that's pretty freaking awesome.
See, this right here, as much as it seems interesting, it'd be better in another book. It'd be better in something that wasn't taking this long to come out. I might even be interested in it, but considering
if you just had the plot focusing on Mime and Marionette, that'd be good. I'm not worried about this Superman theorem and
oh god, that stuff is so stupid.
You know, the 97% of the metahumans are in the U.S. You know, that's because the U.S. government was creating them. It's like, and now, you know, Russia's mad because they don't have as many superheroes as America.
Oh, and Batman is talking to Clark. He's like, dude, shut up. It's real. What are you doing in Russia?
Yeah. Why are you in Russia? Good old Russia, Clark. You know, that's how you think it is.
I did like Firestorm turning all those people to glass, though. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, Larry, I got to say one thing, man.
Yeah.
You said this was going to go for an hour. We're at the 2-hour mark.
Yeah, I got to.
Yes,
I'm going to need to hit the wrap up button.
Well, I should be more forceful. Damn it. It's my show. We should have ended it with. No, but seriously, I probably should have wrapped this up like an hour ago. Like I was trying to, if you remember, you replayed the tape things. But yeah, we just kept going. It's like you two talk a lot. I thought I talked a lot. Damn.
I told you this was going to happen. You're just like the whole time talking about Infinity Gauntlet.
Well,
so on panel 7 of page 23 of the trade, you can see.
Like just like Kathy Bates and Misery, like you start. Well, with the page, like you hit your hands instead of your ankles to keep you from picking up issues. Put a straw in your mouth and you're like blowing the pages over or using chopsticks with your teeth. But this has been a lot of fun. So thank you both for joining me, and thank you for those in the chat. And we'll do this again soon. You know, maybe we'll get a little wild, talk about some of the craziness going on. Who knows? But thank you again, folks, for joining me tonight. And until next time, good night, good luck. And if I don't do a stream before Christmas, Merry Christmas to y'all, and have a happy New Year. Good night, folks.